Great. Thanks very much, Gareth, and hello to everybody. Um, we're navigating some new ground right now, and it's probably in these times more than ever that we need strong leadership and your team's performing really well, and making sure that your organizations are aligned to actually achieve what you want to achieve. So if we just start to kick off with leadership, being a leader is a tough gig. It has its positive sides when things are great, but when times are tough, it's a tough role to have. And what I want to share with you is that, or ask you, is don't bear that whole burden on yourself. It can really add too much pressure for you. The All Blacks themselves have a leadership group. They've got people on the field that can help out during game time when things are going tough. The leader needs to look to somebody to have a conversation with and or for some help or direction. So the whole idea is that please look at yourself being able to share the load. And sharing the load really means is that find, if you can, those lieutenants within your organization that you can actually rely on, that you can have those conversations with that are open and honest. There will be one or two, chances are, in your organization that can do that. Whether or not they're part of your actual leadership team or your team doesn't matter. They could be a factory worker that you've had a good relationship with, whoever it might be. Also, too, is that there could be some other colleagues that you've got in other industries or other companies, or even at the Icehouse. Get them on board to work with you, and so that there are sounding boards. Because having you in fit shape is what the company actually needs. The idea or the concept of leadership is really complex. If you go onto Google, you'll get thousands and thousands of definitions and things of that nature. You'll also get books there'd be thousands of books as well. Amazon, I think, had something like 37,000 books. I'm about simplifying things as best as I can and what kind of works for me. So what to actually look for to be a successful leader. Now, these are the sorts of things we can talk about that you can look into yourself, or you can actually look at how some of the other leaders of your teams are actually behaving, or do they have these traits? And character, having and showing strong character is probably, to me, the primary thing. It's the number one thing that holds up this leadership tent. And some of the attributes that come in with the having strong character is being positive. It's so easy to be negative and drag everyone down with you. There is a wonderful article written by Steve Ballantyne. He's a Kiwi fella. He just published it. He's just a good writer. And it's called Fear is Contagious, but so is Hope. So the positive attributes that you need to be able to convey to your teams and your people is critical. Courage and resilience are two other attributes that are so important. For me, it was always about showing the fight, showing that you will get there. There's the destination. We will get there. There's no doubt about it. And it's about being able to show that fight and rally the people. They will rally if they see that fight in you. And it's all about being successful. Showing integrity is mission critical because it's critical to bringing trust. Now, I just want to show you a slide that as teams, leaders of teams, trust brings employee engagement. John Olson spoke about employee engagement in his webinar a little while ago, and I can't agree more about the importance of having high employee engagement. It drives the numbers skyward. Interestingly enough, the statistic shows that only 8% are engaged if they're not on a team. That's 92% of not being engaged of a person. It more than doubles when the employee is on a team. but that's only 17%. It almost triples when they're on a team where they have a trusted leader. So it goes to show you the merits of being somebody that people can actually really engage with, trust, and get in behind. But we're kind of all human, and if you haven't had, the gray hairs and the battle scars that a lot of us have got, and the experience, it's kind of like, how do I get there? What do I need to do? And so there's a whole plethora of things that people can help with. But before you start your engagements, you're going to have to put your game face on. The people will gauge from you how well things are going. And in these times, people are sort of crapping themselves. They're thinking about their own lives, and then how can I get behind this leader? How can I do things? But if you have your game face on and show that empathy, but show the positiveness, then there's a stronger chance they're going to get with you. And before every engagement, what you need to do is get in the zone. You need to take time aside, alone, or whatever you need to do to get into your head. This is how I'm going to come through. This is how I'm going to bring myself out there. And one of the easiest ways that you can actually be more successful is if you focus on your strengths. Your strengths are what you will go to naturally. So focus on those. Because if you focus too much on your weaknesses, then you're creating self-doubt. Your strengths are where you will go naturally. And if you're not sure where your strengths lie, talk to people. They will tell you where you're strong. And then start to focus on them. Whether they be technical skills, whatever it is, start to focus on them. But you also have to address any major weaknesses. If you got some big weaknesses, you've got to sort them out. And if you're not sure of those weaknesses, what I found kind of works is that if you ask any of your family members what some of your weaknesses are, they won't hold back in telling you. So one of the key weaknesses that you can't have is poor interpersonal skills. If you're not someone that can communicate with people, if you can't engage with them constructively, if you can't show empathy, you're going to really struggle. So there's a whole raft of things you can look at about trying to improve your interpersonal skills. But that's a critical one you actually need to tackle. If you look at right now, we're in a situation, as they say, unprecedented. And there's not a person that I've spoken to that has had a bad word about how Jacinda is actually handling and leading the country at this time. I haven't heard one. And the thing is that what she is doing is that she's simplifying things. She's making it easy for us to understand. But she's still being assertive. She's showing the fight. She's saying, we must do this. We will get there. And that's also her showing the intent. This is the destination where we're going. We will get there. No holes barred. I'm making the tough calls. I'll arrest the idiots. Go. And look at what the country's doing. It's actually rallied behind her. They're actually giving the national leaders shit for trying to be politicking things versus actually supporting things. Now that's the cool stuff. Now she is somebody that you can look at and try to pick up those things of what she's actually doing. So don't think that you can't do it. I started as a salesperson that got promoted to a manager and then on an executive team. I crapped my pants. I had no idea. The only thing I had ever led was a rugby team on a tour to England. Never led anything before in my life after that. So I'm thinking, well, this shouldn't be hard. We just kind of merrily go along. But I had to learn. And I'm only 26, but I look a lot older. It took its toll. But the thing is that you will learn and you can learn. So take away the burden of that, am I good enough? I have to know everything. My ego is in the way. Get rid of that. Know that there are people that are there to help you, and you can also help yourself. Now, I know it's a lot easier said than done when you're in the heat of battle. We've been there. We sat in the corner in the fetal position going, geez, what am I doing? We've been there. But know that it is very, very, very possible. So back yourself. So you can be a very, very trusted leader, because being a trusted leader is important to actually leading the teams, which is a wonderful segue into teams. So I've been part of and led some pretty damn good teams. I've also been part of and led some pretty crap teams. But you all know the power of a good team. Think back when you were part of a team that was really performing, that were good. Just think about that. Take yourself into that space. So my touchstone team was a team that when I got asked to go back into the grocery industry after being out of it for a while, when I went into the grocery back in, I started phoning up all the big retailers, the CEOs and all those people, and said, I'm back in. And they were kind enough to say, yeah, welcome back. And they said, who are you working for? And I told them. And they went, oh. I said, what do you mean, oh? And they said, well, it's one of the biggest brands. It's a big brand in the country, but it's one of the worst suppliers in the country. And I thought, oh, okay. So I was blessed to be able to inherit a couple of people on my team and hire a couple of others. Didn't really know them other than the process. And what a team we had. Unbelievable. So we actually, within 2 years, moved it from being one of the worst to being in the top 2 in the country with help of others. So think about the teams that you've been on, sports teams, work teams, whatever. Everyone is engaged and they're committed. So when they're engaged and committed, they're actually willing to go the extra mile. Otherwise, they're just there to do their job. But when they're willing to go the extra mile and they're willing to actually share and feel trusted and work together hard on the common thing, you know how it hums. The energy is really flowing. It just goes. Wins lead to wins. And good shit gets done. So the benefits that you actually start to see in there is it comes. The profits are higher, the customer satisfaction increases, and the profitability of them increases. And again, employee engagement goes up. Critical, so important to what the whole thing's about. So what is a team? And what's a team versus a group? Lots of times we talk about management teams and then leadership teams, or the management teams, the leadership team, and all that. Well, that's okay. But a group is individuals that are only responsible for their piece of the puzzle. That's it. I'm a sales manager. I'm responsible for sales. That's it. I'm an operations guy. That's it. I'm a logistics lady. That's it. But a team is actually the whole group. Each individual is responsible for their bit. But as a collective, they're utilizing their skills, their knowledge, their abilities to operate as one unit to achieve a bigger thing that's outside just their individual remit. So realistically, it's 1 + 1 = 3. It's being able to harness that as a team, as a unit. It moves. It's responsible for specific results all around the collective. I hope that makes sense. So what are the key elements of a high-performing team? Again, if you go to Google, you're probably going to get about 4 to 44 plus all of these different elements. And for me, I kind of dialed down to 6. And just bear with me. So a number of years ago, or sorry, I guess about 2 years ago, I ended up searching out what were good team development programs. And because in my past life, I'd seen many. And what I came across was one that I'd have actually been exposed to 25 years ago. It's a Kiwi-built system. It's fantastic. And they're focused on 6 elements of the importance of being in a high-performing team. So they focus around team outcomes, trust and respect, dialogue, direction, and accountability, all surrounded by collaboration. Now, interestingly enough, that when I looked at the team my touchstone team, we just did things intuitively. But when I went through and understood this better, I fully got what we were doing right. So what I want to share with you now is just a few things that come out of the Team Alchemy piece of those elements. And one of the critical ones is direction. It's about being able to build clarity and alignment of where you need to go. And why does the team exist? So if you're getting clarity around why the team exists, the purpose of the team, which is the why, that starts to bind the team together. Then it's about setting those goals. And generally what we do is you'd end up setting a goal that's 2, 3, 4, 5 years out, because that's what future business planning is about. It's the BHAG. It's that one big puppy we're going for. Right now, you don't have time. Right now, the future is now or tomorrow or next month. So what I would suggest is that you need to set the goals and objectives that you want to achieve for the next 1, 2, and 3 months, whatever those goals are. Financial goals, recruitment goals, communication goals, whatever they are that you actually need to set. Because what that's now going to do is get this team to be able to focus on where we're actually wanting to go. So if you use the All Blacks again as an analogy, their whole goal is to be the best rugby team in the world. Everybody in the paddock knows that that's what they're there to do. Every person in management knows that's what they're about. It's all focused on doing the things that you need to do to get there. Then what you actually start to do is, what do you need to do to achieve those objectives? Go through the exercise. You just start to break it down with the team. So as they start to understand and contribute and say, right, these are all the things we need to do, great. Now we've got a path. We've got a map. What I'd suggest after that is you identify the barriers, because there's going to be things that are going to crop up. And what are you going to do to address them? You don't need to get sidewinded by it. Set the milestones. What gets measured gets done. What are the critical success factors that you know that you need to achieve in each of those spots? By doing those sorts of things, what you actually do is get everyone tighter and tighter and tighter. And if you've got silo mentality activity going on, it will start to break that down, because people have to be committed to the ultimate goal of the team. And if it is a barrier, you've got to get it on the table. That if the barrier is we don't think and operate like a team, then we have to work on how you're going to think and operate in a team. And one of the main things is just getting that commitment. The last piece what I've got on there is spot the gaps. And what I mean by that is that often our teams are thrown together. Again, they could be a management team, they could be whichever. But we might not have certain specific skills that are required within the team to actually deliver what you need to deliver. Things like problem solving skills, critical thinking skills, project management skills. Interestingly enough, I worked with a client, wonderful client, but when I interviewed each of them prior to the formal engagements, if you will, all of them said, we talk and talk and talk. We've been talking for 2 years. We get nothing done. And actually, when we actually profiled or got a profile of the team, we found that there was virtually nobody on the team that actually gets stuff done. Big gap. Because they all are good at these other things and they prefer to do those other things, but no one was there to actually project manage and get things done and hold people accountable to get things done. So, spot the gaps and then fill them. The next thing is about collaboration. Collaboration is really externally focused. It could be external of your own team within the organization, so distribution versus sales, but it's also your wider network. These are the people that actually, if you don't get their support, you're really not going to be able to achieve the goal. And what you'll then need to do is map out your stakeholder network, figure out who they are, all the people that are actually in there. And then you have to identify which ones are the ones that are essential to you, to actually getting them done. You'll have truckloads, and you kind of going, okay, well, these are the ones that we need alongside us to get to where we want to go to. For the company that I spoke about to getting up to number 2 or number 1, we did it with collaboration with people within sales, in marketing, in distribution, in manufacturing, and in finance. We all bound together to be the best or one of the best suppliers in the grocery industry. And what you do is that once you found those critical ones that you need within your team or your company, you assign ambassadors to them. And this is when you start to have them learn how to collaborate in a true fashion. How many times have you had people come up to you and ask you for help, or if you do this, then it'll make them successful, but it has nothing to do with you, in the sense that it doesn't help you with anything. You're always give. And in actual fact, the people you're giving to can actually cause you headaches by the way they do things. True collaboration is somebody that's willing to say, what is it I can do to make you successful? What can we do better that'll make you successful? They will then start to open up and trust that they will start to engage with you more. They will do more, and they will actually do what they say, and they won't throw up roadblocks. So for us in sales, in our company that I spoke about, when we spoke to, say, manufacturing, they say, well, your forecasting sucks. You got to spend more time on that. It's costing me money. And he's copying it. Okay, we have to get that better. Distribution. They're complaining that the way we process or did our orders were terrible. They weren't on time. So we made that happen. We fixed things that we were screwing them on. So that's a critical thing for you to actually think about, is how do you truly have good collaboration. And in your case, when you're thinking about collaboration, I'll throw something your way, is that right now, everything's in chaos. Potentially think radically. If you're in an industry whereby is there an opportunity to actually collaborate with your competitors, not in a price fixing way, but if you wanted to sit there and talk about, well, we need more industry knowledge. People need to know the benefits of our industry. Doing individual marketing campaigns is nowhere near as powerful as being able to combine into a pool to build the knowledge together, and then let your company succeed based upon their own merits. But if you grow the pie together, you're all going to have a better shot, and your money could be far more effective. Just a thought. The next one is team outcomes. The more teams get things done and the more they succeed, the more they bind together and the more trust and respect happens. So there's a knock-on effect to the other element. So design a team dashboard. Pick what you want, but always link them to the goals and the plans and have them as non-financials as well. Put that into the mix. Right? So if part of it is that you want to improve the culture or the communication within the organization, put that in there. Because quite often we have the finance guy going, well, it's this, it's production cost down, revenue up, this, but there's a lot more to it. And you don't have to make them extensive and you don't have to make them complicated. But put them in the system so that you can start to tick the box once you start to achieve them. And that's to celebrate the achievements. I can't tell you, and you've probably all been through them, is that every company I've ever worked for talked about celebrating achievements, and virtually hardly any ever do. When you've got a dashboard and people are achieving milestones, it gives you something direct you can see and celebrate. It's like when you have a to-do list. When you have a to-do list and you write everything down, when you tick off one, how do you feel? The dopamine gives you a shot, you feel good, you keep going. I'm going to do the next one. I'm going to do the next one. And as Simon Sinek said, even if you've done something and it's not on your list, write it on your list and then cross it off. Get the hit. So celebrate those successes. So the next one is accountability. So accountability is often a problem that people aren't doing what they say. So the first thing that you actually need to start to talk about within the team is you're going to set the bar. Set the performance standards. If you were mediocre before, now you're going to sit there and say, in these times we cannot afford to be mediocre, we got to be great. We're going to set our standards high every time. The interesting thing though, with setting the standards at high every time, is I'm working with a company now who has to be, they shifted their thinking. They want to be really quick and nimble. And they think that 80% of getting something done is good enough, which is absolutely right. That's not a problem. They have to change the culture to do that, but that's not a problem. But what they're still doing is setting the bar. And don't get me wrong, 80% of health and safety is not good. That's not on their radar. They know exactly what has to be 100% quality. Then what you want to do is make sure that people are very clear what they're accountable for. Always make sure that they are very clear. You don't want deers in the headlights. You don't want people looking, I thought you were doing that, I thought you were doing that. You just don't want that. Job is to facilitate, you are doing this. Excuse me. And then establish your routine. How often are you going to go through the dashboards? How often are you going to go through things? Sometimes if there's a really quick, healthy project that's really moving, you might meet daily for 15 minutes. Where are we? Bing, 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 bing. Fred, have you done this? Wilmy, have you done this? Barney, you done this? Betty, you done this? Dot, 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 dot. So now you're starting to go things. But at specific meetings, if there's team meetings, make sure you take time to reflect. Take a breath. Are we still on the right track? What are we actually doing here? Are we connected? Has something changed? Right? Has something changed? So again, accountability then also feeds into the team outcomes. So people know that they have to do their jobs, and they also know what they have to do by way of contributing to the team's result. So very, very important. So again, team outcomes goes up, then the trust goes up, and the employee engagement also goes up. So you actually want to make sure that you're working through all of that. And by the way, interestingly enough, teams that I talk about, this team alchemy system, is that teams that have actually reached team alchemy actually get employee engagement up over 60%. It's cool, eh? But it's not rocket science. But the devil's in the detail. It's actually making it work. So just a few basics around here about getting things sorted. This is like the platform for your team. Get your team behaviors outlined and the ground rules for the team. What are the good behaviors? What are the behaviors that aren't acceptable? It gives you a framework to be able to relate to. Always try to draw a line of sight to behaviors and actions. And what I mean by that is this is supporting our direction. This is supporting our purpose. Way to go. This is doing this for achieving that strategy. Way to go. Creating the psychological safety in a team is critical. You'll get different behaviors, different personalities, introverts, extroverts. The extroverts will just kill the introverts, dominate, So you've got, and the introverts don't want to talk, or they, for fear of being shot down. So getting people to understand that what important behavior is to create psychological safety is essential. And what you can do is sit within your team and saying, what is it we need to do to make everybody feel comfortable? And just get it on the table. Just keep working at it and get it so that everyone is willing to contribute. Your meetings are critical. They are where your teams get together. And getting into a good rhythm of meetings and how they're run is so important, because people are busy and they'll always complain we have too many meetings. And they're probably right. The thing is that what they're probably attending is meetings that aren't very functional. So you have to be very clear of what kind of meetings you got. Have a clear agenda that's up front. What are the rules? On time, no cell phones at all. We'll stay on topic. We'll finish on time. Things like that. Those are the rules. And one of the best workshops I've ever been to was about meetings. And what they called it was outputs. The outputs are actually the agenda. This is understood. This is agreed. This is this, and then that's the agenda out. So it's very critical. If you have good meetings, it's where the interactions happen, and then they're sharp and they are effective. Now, I've written, I've gone into Google and tried to save a lot of people work and just put together a bunch of things that people have said about meetings and how to run meetings and the importance of meetings and how to have productive meetings. That's going to be, I think, on your website or something like that you can actually get to. So please feel free, have a read. It's please accept it's not a thesis to a PhD. It's just Bill Bain from Canada, was West Coast, writing some stuff. So hopefully that gives you some insights about some of the teams. Now, your roles to leading the team. Your role is to make this happen. And what you really want to do is you want to drive the ethos of performance. It's purposeful performance is critical. So lots of people think, oh, leadership is warm and fuzzy stuff. No, it's about getting results. Always heading towards the results. Focus on that. You've got to create the energy, the motivation, and inspire the people to achieve. And we talked about different ways that you can actually start to do that. And again, their engagement will increase. And a wonderful thing is that over time, they will self-manage. You are now creating leaders within the team. So you can actually take a breath and not have the burden of all of that. So now we'll just move on to alignment. Everybody knows the importance of alignment, but the reality is, where am I here? Very little time is actually dedicated to it. Oh. And oops. Interestingly enough, Harvard Business shows that 40 to 60% of strategic initiatives, or the value of any company's strategic initiative, is lost in the execution phase. Other researchers say it's higher. Isn't that just does your head in? All that work and effort that you put in is lost, or a truckload of it is lost. So without getting into too much detail, the first thing I'm trying to do is put alignment on your radar. So assuming your strategies are aligned to your purpose and the goals you want to achieve, you need to ensure that all that information and what people need to do is cascaded throughout the whole organization. You need to actually map out. You actually need to map out who in the organization needs to know all this stuff. Who is it? What's important? But not only your organization, think about your suppliers or business partners. Isn't it great for you to put initiatives together? No one talked about the trucking firm that's actually going to pick up our stuff and how important it is in the role that they play. So you need to map it out. Who needs to know? What is it they need to know? And how do they best get the information? If we send it in emails, chances are it'll get lost. So what's the best way? And communicate in language that they will understand. We at the organization level or top level can talk a lot of wanky stuff, where the person on the factory floor will go, I've got no idea what you're telling me. So if you're not communicating in a language all the way down, then you're going to struggle. And the other thing is that once you've spoken to them, then confirm with them, do they understand? Repeat it back to me. So the organization will have its, get everything done, then it cascades down to the department. If there is a department there, then it goes to the team and the person. So fill in the dots. Who is that? Who are all these people? So hopefully we're not crazy on time. So just coming into the last bit is that it's back to you. You are responsible for your own energy. You cannot get other people energized if you aren't energized. And that's a hard gig, because who energizes the energizer? Who does that? You're giving and giving and giving and giving and giving. Well, you got to reach out. You got to rely on the people that can actually help you, who can talk, you can talk with. Colleagues, other company owners, other team owners, other teammates, whatever the thing is. Another thing is that you can get a business coach or a mentor. Find somebody that you can actually work with, that you can sound off and or just yell at. Whatever it needs to happen, and they can actually be there. But one of the things that you do have is each other. And this is where this experiment's just going to come into play here. So if everyone is keen, please switch on your cameras and start to look around and see. You can shift around and see who's there. We have 127 people on here. Wave to each other. Now what I'm going to ask you to do is unmute your mics, if you will, and everyone take a step back so you can all be seen, and congratulate each other with a standing ovation, saying, we're here for you.
Like everybody
Clapping.
than 100 bucks.
Get up.
That's right.
You are the network.
Hold on.
Okay, right up. So you guys are the network. Only you guys will understand each other's issues and problems and opportunities. So I encourage you to continue to reach out to each other. I want to just also say in closing that what I've talked about is all about a process. It's not an event. It takes time. There's tipping events that'll happen, and the more the tipping events start to happen, they get closer and closer, and you'll get there. Trust it.